This video is sponsored by EA. Now it amazes me, after 11 seasons of Apex Legends, people still don't know what are the best team compositions to play, what legends fit best with each other, and how to be the most successful player you can be. The truth is, there's no right answer. However, there is a pretty close answer, and there's definitely a righter answer than a wrong one. And you can look at the competitive players to show you the way. Now, most people understand that there's a difference between players who are playing competitively for thousands of dollars and many years together versus those who are in your pub games, who you might have just met and don't ever want to see again. But in this video, we're going to give you the bridge to connect what the pros do and why they do it so you can make better decisions in your games. This is the 3 best legend compositions in Apex Legends based on the best players in the world for this ALGS Finals. Let's go. So the ALGS Finals are upon us, and that means we get to see the best of the best compete at the highest level. But for you, it's not just about watching them and being entertained, it's about studying, or at least it should be if you want to be a better player, whether it's Apex Legends or any first-person shooter. The first composition I want to talk about is for my aggressive players. There will also be a composition that we talk about that is for my defensive players. And there will also be a composition for those who like to be more flexible. I'll cover all of these in depth, and I'll even give you a team in the ALGS, the Apex Legends Global Series, to watch this weekend or to watch in future games that plays this composition to perfection. While we're watching their video, we'll be talking about what makes their compositions so strong. Also, if you guys are enjoying this, please leave a like and subscribe because this is a great spot to learn Apex Legends if you're coming new to the game. The first composition is aggressive, and it's so aggressive that it's worked so well. Sentinels and G2, one of the 3 best teams in North America heading into this $1 million playoffs, play this lineup of Ash, Gibraltar, and Bloodhound. These 3 legends help to combine to make a super aggressive team that can, at a moment's notice, be upon an enemy team, decimating them with enough information and utility to survive even if a third party comes afterwards. But it also gives them a lot of information and flexibility to continually get that information safely. Let's break down what each character adds to the lineup. Now, the Bloodhound is one of the more interesting legends to be played during this time of Apex Legends. Whereas Bloodhound used to be the most effective legend at being aggressive and getting information, the Bloodhound is now filling that role a little bit more specifically for players who still like that aggressive style and, of course, don't want to pick a character that might be more defensive or more tactical, like a Crypto or a Valkyrie. The Bloodhound provides recon information, which is the one thing you need in Apex Legends competitive for sure. Recon information gives you the ability to scan a recon beacon once you land in your first zone and find out where the next zone is going to be. But here's the secret. For those who don't know, most zones predict themselves once you already know where it's going. So once you get that second scan, most players will be able to, at a high level, predict where the zone will end up 3 or 4 zones later, meaning they can start moving in the right direction of where the game is going to end, finding the best spots to sit up to make sure that they have the best chance of winning the game in the final circle. Now, not every team does this, as some teams will play the edge of the zone as it moves in, but a lot of teams like to get that information with a recon legend, and it's probably 85% of what you'll see in high-level Apex. The Bloodhound also brings a ton of aggression and the utility of scanning. It's an information character, which means that you know where other players are, and simply knowing where they are gives your team an edge because that team cannot make any moves while you're trying to go forward and attack them because they know that their moves will be predicted and seen by you. Bloodhound also comes in handy when you're looking for a solo player or a rat. Somebody who might have had their team lose a gunfight and be the only remaining survivor in the game for them. This player will probably not be trying to make a lot of noise or be found so that they can survive the longest to get better placement points, but a Bloodhound will be able to sniff them out very easily with that scan, ultimate, and passive of tracking players' footsteps. The Gibraltar adds a lot to this lineup in 2 different ways. One, the Gibraltar protects the Bloodhound when they need to scan. meaning you can use the dome shield while the Bloodhound is scanning to be able to protect them so that they don't get shot. The Gibraltar also is the meta of Apex Legends competitive. Most teams will run a Gibraltar no matter what, as it provides two different distinct benefits. One, the Gibraltar individually is a great 1v1 character, and whenever shotguns are a meta, such as now with the Peacekeeper being the strongest shotgun and the Mastiff as well, the Gibraltar with its gun shield, an extra 50 health to its name, plus the ability to use the dome shield to juke inside and out, I like to call it dancing, in these little gunfights, allows them to have an extra edge in almost all close range encounters. Add to that, the Gibraltar has 15% damage reduction, also doesn't get slowed by any bullets like most other legends in the game besides Caustic, and has one of the strongest ultimates in the game, forcing other players to take cover or literally die, because these players are so good that if you get hit with a defensive bombardment, take 40 to 80 damage, and get stunned, you're not going to survive in these lobbies. This leads to a Gibraltar meta, where you have to have a Gibraltar to defend yourself against another Gibraltar. One day, everyone may stop playing the character, and then he won't be needed anymore, but right now, if you don't have a Gibby, you're in trouble. Now, the Ashe is probably the most interesting legend choice here, and it doesn't work for every team. Although Ashe is the newest character in Apex Legends, it's been a hard time telling whether Ashe or Wraith are the better legend for competitive, and I think the answer is clear. Who cares? It depends on your lineup. Whether you like to play aggressively is going to determine whether Wraith is better for you, and as we look into our flexible compositions coming up later, or even our defensive compositions, that's not everybody's bag. The Ashe, however, does bring something super special to Apex, which is her ultimate. Ashe's ultimate phase breach is really a game changer, and for aggressive compositions who also have the ability to stabilize with a Gibraltar dome shield, the Ashe can be very synergistic in getting you to places to capitalize on teams who are weak or not expecting a huge fight at this moment. Consider you're in a horrible position at the end of a game, but there's a tower up top that you wouldn't be able to get to without an Octane jump pad, who's not in the meta, and a Wraith wouldn't be able to climb to. A Valkyrie ultimate might be a little bit too dangerous, as you've got to not only join up on the initial thrust, wait until you jump into the air. While you're in the air, you're getting shot, and then you have to try to safely land without dying. The Ashe circumvents all of those problems by immediately opening up a phase breach directly to where you want to go. If there's a team who had just fought somebody else and is now recovering, trying to get shield swaps, get ammo, and heal themselves, a phase breach also puts you in the perfect position to third party. But you have to be looking for those moments. A team like Sentinels and G2 are extremely good at playing this composition, as it adds to their already aggressive style and their confidence going in 1v1 and taking those types of fights. When you look at Lou or you look at Designful, these are two of the best mechanical players in all of Apex Legends. So having Ashe be able to get them immediately into a fight when they realize they're already at an advantage is a huge benefit to them. Now, the double-edged sword is that aggressive play can be severely rewarded or severely punished. It's up to you, but if you like getting into the thick of things, Ashe, Gibraltar, and Bloodhound are a great combo. Our second legend combo is the Valkyrie, Gibraltar, and the Caustic, a much more defensive late game style of play. However, if you get to the late game with this composition, you'll probably win it. We already know what the Gibraltar does in this lineup, protects the other two players, as there are two vulnerable aspects to the Caustic and the Valkyrie that we'll get into as we expand on their abilities. First, let's take a look at what the Valkyrie brings to the table. The Valkyrie is a recon legend, and Valkyrie has been really one of the talking points of Apex Legends competitive ever since she was first released and made such an impact in the summer playoffs. With about 50 seconds before round 1 ends in your Apex Legends match, you should start to hear a lot of jetpacks starting up, and that will mean you'll look into the sky and see many Valkyrie teams making their first rotation. The benefit of this is you can kind of go a lot slower than you normally would as a team, whether it's looting up, taking a fight maybe far away from your objective or where you're going to land, and then still be able to act as if you've rotated early due to the space you can cover from Valkyrie's rotation. This means a team who's actively rotating can actually be beaten by a team who is passively rotating just because of a Valkyrie being able to get that distance in front of them and then gatekeep them away as the circle is still closing in. There's a lot of huge benefits from landing up on height, landing in zones that are out of bounds, but buying 25 seconds to heal or to maybe get an advantage over a team that's fighting another team below. The list goes on and on. Valkyrie being able to scan recon beacons is just an added bonus, which allows her to be utilized in high-level competitive. Let's take all of her ultimate value aside. If she didn't have the ability to scan recon beacons, she probably wouldn't be utilized as much. But because she brings that to the table, she could see people as she's falling, so you get really good scouting as you're coming down from the skyward dive, and you can relocate, and also in final circles, just jetpack up above a lot of the fighting. This gives some teams a win condition that you may not have seen before, meaning that most people fighting on the ground as the circle's closing will be paying attention to each other. A Valkyrie flying up at height will be able to use a great amount of time just to stay out of the engagement, come down, and probably get a couple of extra placement points. Valkyrie's Q ability, Missile Swarm, is actually one of the most impactful abilities as a tactical in the game and competitive. Part of the reason it's so good is because it's a great poking tool, and oftentimes teams will be held up in certain areas where you cannot reach them or see them without throwing an ordnance like an arc star or a grenade. Valkyrie's Missile Swarm often does hit those teams and force them into tough positions where they know they have to move versus stay there safely and just heal up without any damage. Valkyrie is a lot of pressure, Valkyrie provides you a lot of utility and movement, and Valkyrie also gives you a ton of information. The Gibraltar, when the Valkyrie is getting into the skyward dive, can also bubble to save the Valkyrie from any early shots or pokes that might be happening in a more congested circle where more players are around, keeping her a little bit more safe either on the upstart or on the landing once they finally hit the ground and maybe are in a little bit of chaos.
Two down, two down.
Nice.
Nice.
Good shit. Clean.
The cool part about this composition is the Caustic, even though Caustic and Cool rarely go together. Caustic is one of those legends that for me has never been fun to play. I've never liked watching Caustic be played, but ever since Caustic had a couple changes to his gas several seasons ago, got them reverted, and now has got some better changes to the gas, Caustic has made an impact in the highest level of play that is probably not going to leave. Caustic as a late game character is one of the best in the game because you cannot counterplay the gas once the gas is out. If you find a way to somehow Gibraltar bubble outside of the gas to stop it from getting in, that's great. But when you start minimizing the space you have to travel, a Caustic's barrels and oppressive gas and ability to hold down an area becomes nearly unavoidable, which means that if you get Caustic into a good position late game, you have a great chance to win. The problem is getting the Caustic there, and that's where most teams take the biggest risk. The Caustic has no ability to move great distances over time, no protective utility outside of being offensive, and is a very easy big target. The benefit is Caustic, like Gibraltar, also takes 15% less damage and doesn't get slowed by bullets, but a Caustic has to be very wary of getting to that final circle alive. In fact, if you make it to the end circle but your Caustic has died, almost your entire win condition has gone out of the window, because a Gibraltar Valkyrie is not a strong combination late game versus a Gibraltar Valkyrie and a Caustic. Alliance is really the team that brought Caustic into the meta and has stayed with this Caustic idea, especially practicing in scrims heading into these playoffs, so expect to see them running a Caustic again. It doesn't always work, but when it does, you can have some of those incredible games that really put you over the top and allow you to take control of a lobby. Caustic, Valkyrie, and Gibraltar are a huge win condition if you can get to the end, which is a big gamble on your ability to properly play in zones, circles, and rotate. However, given the fact that Valkyrie can give you all the information you need and fly you there just as fast, you'll have a better time than most getting to where you want to be. Now, the final Apex Legends composition we'll talk about today is the flexible lineup. This includes Gibraltar, Valkyrie, and Wraith. What I love about this lineup is each legend can contribute very well individually, but also works well together as an entire team. The reason this is called flexible is because if something goes wrong with one legend, you still have a couple of legends who can do a decent job by themselves. Most importantly, the Wraith, and this composition only gets better if you have a player like Gambit Hardecki playing her. Now, the Gibraltar and the Valkyrie in this lineup have a totally different role. As Gibraltar, Valkyrie protected the Caustic and tried to rotate him and get him into late game in order to succeed, the Gibraltar and the Valkyrie are actually more support roles, not necessarily needing to be the front of the show, whereas the Wraith takes the entry fragger role here. For those who don't know, most Wraith players are the aggressive and more entry fragger role, meaning they're the ones scouting, they're the ones doing damage early because they have the tools to get out. Wraith is one of the only legends that has this clutch up ability beyond other legends, considering the fact that she has the only ability in the game that allows you to go completely invulnerable. That's right, you cannot shoot her, even though you can see her. This means you can buy time and you can also get out of sticky situations other legends, if they were able to just get shot at, simply cannot do. Going into the void is a huge aspect of Wraith, but also her passive. Hearing those voices whenever someone is looking at you with a weapon, Wraith gets some information, which allows her, as maybe not a recon legend or utility like the Valkyrie, to still provide some valuable information for her team to be able to maneuver and stay on guard when people might be looking at them with a big Kraber headshot in mind. Wraith's Into the Void is one of the most important abilities that any legend has ever had in Apex Legends, and in my opinion, it will always be the best ability in the game. The reason is, going invulnerable means no one can hit you. That is a zero outplay possibility, where almost every other ultimate, ability, passive, tactical has some element of outplay where other players, if they are on their game, can stop you. The Wraith cannot be stopped. She's going into the void, and when she comes out, you'll then have a chance to play against her again. This means great Wraith players who know how to utilize it, bait other players into committing or undercommitting, will be able to get out of dodge so many times that they might just pull off some of the best clutches ever. And trust me, we've seen it with Hardeki many times before. Also, the Wraith provides something else that the Caustic doesn't provide, and neither does the Bloodhound, or really even the Ash, which is the ability to set up these Wraith portals that go both ways. This can be utilized in one strong way, which is a kidnap, which we see so many great players use. A kidnap is one of those things that when you take your Wraith portal and you take it into another enemy, when you let go of the portal, when it runs over an enemy, you'll be able to actually take them back involuntarily to where your first portal started, which is where most of the teammates who you have will be waiting with shotguns and a very unpleasant welcome for that enemy. This also allows teams to go back and forth, given the fact that they'll be able to rotate multiple times, unlike the Ash Phase Breach, which is a one-time rotation. Wraith being able to provide this little bit of utility for herself as well as her team means that she's an even better scout, and she's even better at baiting teams into overcommitting to her. I like this lineup because ultimately it just gives you a lot of flexibility to play the game to your strengths as an individual. The Valkyrie still gives you the poke, the information, the utility, and the rotation. The Gibraltar gives you a ton of safety. Plus, he's great at 1v1 bubble fights, almost better than anyone else he's going to come across other than another Gibraltar. The Wraith, a small hitbox, incredible invulnerability when things get bad, and a little bit of movement. In case the Valkyrie ultimate is down, the Wraith can be the one to take the role of utility and get you from one place to the next when you need to rotate and the zone is closing in. All of this allows this team to make a lot of on-the-fly decisions, and when you have somebody as good as Gambit who runs this lineup, those decisions often turn out to be right. Kind of like this last play with Hardeki, which is one of the best things we've seen in all of Apex Legends.
A slightly more winnable situation than previously. The bubble goes up. It looks like Let's de France aren't aware of Hardeki's positioning here, and that means the fight's going to break out between these two teams.
There's a lot of damage that can be done by Hardeki here. All he's playing for realistically is top 2, but certainly will have his sights on the first place.
Well, here comes the Ape, and there comes the Nox. Let's de France get the first one. Joke is trying to connect with the second as well. Let's de France will pick up the kills they need necessary to at least secure that second place. But here comes Hardeki, the one-man army. Is he going to be able to pull off one of the craziest plays we've ever seen in the ALGS? Of course he is. Hardeki is built different.
So what's your favorite lineup, and what lineup did I miss? Because I know you guys have some of your favorites that I haven't talked about yet. If you want to see more of this, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and also remember to never give up and never stop gaming. See you next time.